How's it? Ed Sugimoto from AroundHawaii.com. We're here bright and early at the United Fish Agency fish auction to talk to the big boss man Brooks Takenaka to see how he gets his fish from pier to plate. Let's check it out. Describe a little bit about your history with the fish in the islands, Hanabata kid time.
Well, basically I was born and raised in a fisherman's family. So my grandfather was a longline fisherman. My father and my uncles were fishermen as well. And until we were born, my father basically stayed on the boat. They stayed fishing. And so I come from a fishing family, commercial longline fishing family. And as a kid, I was always interested in fish. And I could tell you the scientific names of fish and common names and all that. And I used to raise some fish. And that's, they didn't want me to go into fishing.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had done all the trolling and diving and all kinds of different forms of fishing and all that. And they didn't want me to go into fishing. So I pursued a career in marine biology. So I studied marine biology at the University of Hawaii. And then I did some research with the Oceanic Institute, Coconut Island. I worked out at Coconut Island in the university system. And then I worked out at Oceanic Institute. And then I worked for the Sea Grant program for about 3.5 years, and that's when I came to appreciate education and outreach. So I was working for those guys, and then the industry was going through some changes, and they made me an offer, and so I came back into the industry, and have been here ever since. So I've been here for about 30 years now with the United Fishing Agency.
To those who don't know, explain who exactly the United Fishing Agency is and its role in the fish auction.
Well, the United Fishing Agency is the fish auction. And basically, it's a company that was put together many years ago, decades ago actually. And the whole idea, which is really a beautiful one, was put together by the senior Otani. And then basically it was a matter of bringing together wholesalers and fishermen to form an organization that basically put together a program that brought together the daily fish demand with the fish supply. And so back then, it was a far more expansive reality in terms of the type of species, because you had reef fish, deep sea bottom fish, as well as open ocean pelagic fish. Maybe not in these kinds of numbers that you have today, but back then when I was a kid, I remember going to the auction, and there were there was a lot of reef fish, trapping, netting, diving, all kinds of reef fish, and then there was a few bottom fish and longline. Certainly, the situation now is different in that the reef fish is pretty much sold as a separate entity. They have their own market, and we don't get involved with the reef fish anymore. But we do sell the deep sea bottom fish and the longline stuff, the pelagic stuff. So how the auction works basically is that when these fishermen provision up to go out fishing, the purveyors they sell they buy their products from, the food, the fuel, the water. Those purveyors will send their billings here to United Fishing Agency.
Oh.
These fishermen go out fishing. They come back, first up on the dock, first up on the floor. And every day, 6 days a week, the list of boats is listed on the board there. And there is a phone service that people can call in to find out what we've got, how much they've got. So then we sell, basically put up their fish, we unload their fish and put their fish up. Every boat's fish is color coded, and we sell one boat's fish at a time. So we start off with the big eye tunas, which is the target species of this fleet, and then with the yellowfin, and then the different tuna species like your albacore or tombo, and then your skipjack or aku, and sometimes some kava kava, but longline not so much kava kava. Then your marlins, then your mai mai ono, other species like that, mancha, walu, opa. One of the good things about the Hawaii fleet is that historically they've always brought back all the species they catch, with the exception of the bluefish, the blue shark. They bring back everything, and the nice thing about the Hawaii situation is that there's a fond appreciation for all the species, so we don't waste any of these species at all. And with the cultural diversity that we have here, there's so many different ways of preparing these fish that people have a good appreciation for all these species. So that's basically how it works. In terms of how we get paid, we take 10% off the gross sales for our payment, and basically that's how it works.
You mentioned, I read somewhere actually that this market is based off of the Tsukiji market in a little sense. Is that
Not in a little sense. It's very, very much so. We're actually a very junior version of of Tsukiji. So it's based after the traditional Japanese method of auctioning, selling fish.
Okay. You're kind of briefly walking us through the process. Can you kind of, in a little more detail, how it comes off the boat, do the scaling, do the weighing and all that?
How it all works is basically when they come home, we unload the boats. If you go outside and take a look at some of the carts, the carts were built actually prior to moving to this facility. We were over in Kiwalo, and what we used to do is we used to send trucks out to go pick up the fish at the various piers.
Okay.
Since moving here, the accommodations are great because we unload the boats right here. So it's much more timely, and the freshness and quality are significantly better. So it's a far better facility. And basically how it works is that these boats come home, and we have an answering service. So first in, first up, and the answering service lets us know who's first and second, third, and all this. So in order for us to start the auction at 5:30, my guys come in at 1 o'clock. They call the auction, the answering service, they figure out who's first, and then they just start unloading the boats. Those carts that we have now to unload the boats basically represent the same size of the truck beds that we used to go pick up fish with. And one of the reasons why we did that is because we have a good idea of about how many pounds are on each truckload. So that way it's another form of checks and balance. So that we built the carts to be the same size, and then it's about the same amount of fish. So we know there's about 3,000 pounds of fish in that cart, around there, depending on the species and sizes. So then the boat unloads the fish into the carts. Those carts then are moved over to the facility, and then you see the weighing area where we stage it all out, and then the fish gets weighed and then tagged, and then you have a weight tag as well as barcode, and on the barcode you have the information of the boat, the date, all this what kind of species, how many pieces, that sort of thing. Then those fish are lined up, like I said, big eyes, big to small, yellowfins, big to small, and then the other bycatch species. And that's basically how we started. At 5:30 the bell rings and off they go.
Off they go.
Yeah. And so when we do, what we do with the tunas, however, is that you'll notice we do a tail cut, wedge cut, and then we do an anterior coring. So basically that's all on each fish, each tuna in particular. And so the buyer has a good profile of what that fish is in terms of quality, and that facilitates and expedites their bidding on the fish. So that's how it works.
What do they kind of look for? Bloodline?
Well, what they're looking for is freshness and quality, also relative to their client base. Okay, so in other words, they have a good feel for their client base, and then they're bidding on fish that basically services their clientele. And so you have companies in there that play the whole gamut in terms of quality and range and prices, and you have those that are more of a niche market type of situation. And so what's interesting is that you have a whole different approach by different people in terms of how they're buying, what they're buying, and how much they're willing to spend, depending on what kind of client base they have. So some of these companies do send fish to the mainland. They work with people on the mainland. They'll send fish to the mainland. Others will send them when they're even marketing in Vancouver. On occasion, you'll hear comments about some of these fish maybe going to Japan. Not as much as before, because what's happened is that the world has come to appreciate sashimi and sushi and raw fish a bit more than it has in the past. And so what's happening is and people are beginning to appreciate the value. And so there are more people that are buying tuna today as compared to before. And so not as much ends up in the Japanese market. A lot of it does go to the mainland, the United States, Canada. Vancouver is a very strong market. So the rest of the world has figured out what's happening with fish, and that's part of the reason why we're talking this sustainability today. So that's why we talk about those kind of issues.